Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to the next episode of FightCraft. In this episode, we're going to work on two very important classes in order to make this game work. Actually, maybe three. I don't want to make it too long, but we're going to be working on maps and arenas. We're going to implement a lot of the basic functionality, and then we'll add to those classes as we implement other features. Just in case you're curious, my plan for this is to try and get the plugin to be fully working and then add a website component with statistics to it afterwards. So we're going to be working in Java for a while. We'll go ahead and create, I guess we'll start off with the map class. So we'll make a new class called map. Now, the difference, this is the first time that I've used a map class in any of the plugins that I've done on the channel. So the difference between this and a lot of the other ones are going to be that you can define a bunch of different maps. And then when players decide to play a game, they'll be taken to some sort of lobby. And within that lobby, they can then vote for whichever map they want. And whichever map they want to play on is the map that will be used for them. They'll be teleported to the map, and then it'll be blocked off for everyone else. So the way that some of the other games that I've done have run are you set up a bunch of different arenas, and then you can join a specific arena by its number. But in this way, you sort of you enter into a lobby. Instead of specifying a specific one, you go to a lobby, you vote for a map, and then once enough people are in the lobby, then whichever map is chosen will go. So the map is going to contain details about the map, like which world it is, and where everything is set up, essentially. And then there's going to be an arena class. I guess we could call it game. Yeah, we'll have a game class, which will contain a map inside of it. Which map are we using for this game, and then other information. So maps will be persistent. We're going to make a configuration file for all of the maps as they are defined, but the games will not. The games will be created as players join and vote for maps. So map is, again, the concrete class that we're actually going to use to represent a map, and that will be saved within the configuration file. So that's what we're going to do first. And I guess just a couple of things that we need are, I guess we can use world org.bucket.world, but of course when we go to save it in the configuration file, we'll save the name of the world. Let's see, some other pieces of information that we will need here. I guess we'll need all of these spawning locations. Hang on. Array list locations, spawn locations. Because I think that I think that the way that we'll do this is when the administrator goes to set up the game, they will go to a bunch of different locations around the map and set them up as spawn points. So they can decide, they can say, okay, maybe we want everyone to be in a circle Hunger Games style so that everyone starts out close to each other and you can either begin fighting immediately or run away, or maybe they'll decide to spread it out. They'll say, you know, we want people all over the place, so there's more of, you know, a survival, like you're looking out for people, but you don't necessarily see them to begin with. So that'll be up to them. And one feature that I'm considering adding is automatic map setup. So something where you make the map and you stick a bunch of, let's say, emerald blocks, and then each emerald block is automatically turned into a spawn location. I don't know if that would be iterating over too many blocks to crash the server, but you know, we'll get to that later. So spawn locations, that's important. We also need the chests. We'll just call that chests, and we want to import org.bucket.block.chest, yeah. Because what we'll do is we'll add support for chests, so you can, you know, fill them up with items. And some maps or some servers may not choose to use this because, again, you can use points to get items. But I think that this can give some of the newer players an upper hand, because when you have people who've been playing for a while and they have a lot of points and a lot of perks, then the new people might have to spend a lot of time to get good, to get points and, you know, get these same perks. But with chests, it adds a little element of randomness. Like, oh, someone might happen to find good armor or a good weapon, and that can give them a huge boost. So chests, that could be optional, but we definitely want to implement the feature. So we know which world it is, we know the spawn locations, and we know the chests that we have. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else, but I think that that is enough for now. And again, map is going to contain all of the data. It's not going to contain any transient information, any information that's not permanent. So we're not going to store, a list of players in here or anything like that. That'll go in the game class. So we'll go ahead and make the map constructor, and I think that what we should do here is we'll load it in from a configuration file. So what will happen is we'll have a map manager class, which we could do now, that will contain all of the different maps, and in the beginning it'll load them all in from a configuration file so that they're all available. I guess we can also add private boolean in use just to make it a little bit easier. We don't necessarily need it, but it can make some checks easier. So this will be true when the map is in use, false when it is open to be used, and that will not be saved in the configuration file, obviously, but I guess that's one piece of not permanent information that we will keep in the map. So in order to do this, I think that we will have it do configuration section, and you'll of course remember this from anytime you work with configuration files. What will happen is the map manager will go into the maps configuration file, and then it'll go through each section in there, and each section will be a different map, and then it'll pass the section into the map class, and the job of the map class is to load in all of the data, and I think that makes sense. So first we'll do, so we have the section obviously, and we just need to pull out these three pieces of information. So we will say this.world equals bucket.getServer.getWorld, and the name of the world is going to be section.getStringWorld. So the way that the file will look is it'll have world and whatever the name of the world is, then it'll have a section called locations, or spawn locations, and it'll have a list of all the locations, and then it'll have one called chests, and that'll have a list of locations of all of the chests. Because what we'll do is, what we'll do there is we'll load in all of the chests, and when we get the location of the block, we're going to make sure that it's still there and that it's still a chest, and then we can cast it to be a chest so we can, use it. So now we want to go ahead and load in all of the spawn locations. So we're going to have a section inside of the configuration file in each map called spawn locations, and under each one they will be organized by number. So we'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, each representing a different location, and then under each one will be the X, Y, and Z coordinates. And if we want to save the pitch and yaw, I guess we could. I guess that might make sense. If you're doing something like Hunger Games where you want them to be looking to the middle, then I guess we could do something like that. So we will say we're going to use a for loop to go through all of the values. So actually we first want to get all, so we're going to say for string key in section dot get get keys false. So we're going through each key, and then this is going to be something like 1, 2, or 3, which will contain the location. And then we're going to say configuration section location equals section.get configuration section key. So now we have this section, and then inside of location, inside of this section, it will contain X, Y, and Z for us. So again, we'll have, or actually we need to do section.get configuration section, and then what is it called? Spawn locations. So we want to get the spawn location section. So I guess if we want to sort of write out what this will look like, it'll say, so it'll have the root element, which will be maps, and then it'll have like 1, and then inside of 1 it'll have, or I guess this would start at 0, so it would have world, which will be like, world or whatever the name of the world is. Then it will have spawn locations, and then inside of there it will have 0, and then under 0 it'll have X, it'll have, you know, X is whatever the coordinate is, Y, Z coordinate, and then the pitch coordinate and the yaw. And I don't know if those are valid numbers or not, but that's essentially what it will look like. And then the last part is up here. It will also have the chests, and that's going to work the same way. It's going to have, again, the coordinates of where each chest is. And this is not going to have the pitch and yaw inside of it because it's a chest. It's just, you know, a location of a block. And none of these need the world because the world is going to be whatever we have up here. It's going to be the same one. So that would be good there. So that's sort of the structure. So right here, the first thing we do is we go inside of, so we get 0 right here. We're given this section. And then we go ahead and get the value for world, which in this case is world, or, you know, let's just say that it's called map 1. However, the server owner names their maps. Then for this next part, we want to go inside of the spawn location section, and we want to go through each section inside of there. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how many spawn locations there are. And then for each one, we want to get that particular section. And when we get to location, we now have XYZ pitch and yaw. So in here, we're going to say spawn locations dot add new location, and it takes those 4 parameters. First is going to be world, which we already defined up there, and then it needs the X, Y, and Z. So that'll be location dot get double, and it's going to be X, and then location dot get double Y. Wait, I don't want to put that. Oh, I put this in the wrong place. Come on. And then location dot get double Z. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that pitch and yaw are floats, or at least one of them is, so we're going to try that. Oh, there's no get float list, so we have to use get double, and we'll cast it if we need to. Pitch and get double yaw. So those are all the values, and what is the error? I believe that these two need to be floats, so let's just try that. Yep, that was it. Alright, good. This is kind of taking up a lot of space, so I'm just going to stick it at the bottom here, because it is still useful for now, but yeah, that'll go down there at the bottom. And before I forget, because I did forget, we need to, of course, instantiate spawn locations. And also chests. So there we go. So that's instantiated. So this part right here will actually load in each location. And that's pretty simple. Now the next part that we need to do is load in all of the maps. So I guess we'll kind of separate this. So this will be the world. This will be spawn locations. So I guess we'll do lowercase. And then this will be chests. Now chests is a little bit easier in the sense that we don't have pitch and yaw, but we do have to worry about whether or not we're dealing with a chest. So first we want to set that to be chests. And then we have location. And we want to delete pitch and yaw because we don't need to save them. And instead of doing spawn locations.add, we're going to call this, we'll say chest location. So this is the location of the chest. And what we want to say is we want to say if chest location.get block, and then we want to say, we want to say .get, what is it? Get type. That's right. So if we want to say get type is equal to material dot, and let's see what they all are. There's a couple. There's chest and trapped chest, and I guess those are the only two. We do, I think, want to allow trapped chest because they function in the same way, but if someone makes a map that uses some sort of redstone with the trapped chest, we want to honor that. So, material dot trapped chest. So what we're saying is, we have to copy that part again, put it right there. So what we're kind of saying here is if the block is a chest or a trapped chest, so if it's exactly what we think it is, if there's a block there and if it's the block that we think it is, then we can go ahead and say chests.add, and we can cast chest to chest location.getBlock, just like that. And I just want to quickly make sure that it extends block state. So instead of doing that, we need to do get block.getState. So that's the correct cast, because you'll look, I don't have my decompiler set up, but you'll see that it extends block state, which clearly means that we need to do get block.getState. So now chests will contain all of the chests. And what we want to do for the else is, if it's not there, I guess we want to remove it. And I believe that we can do that. We should just be able to say section.get configuration section chests dot, I think it's set, that you would set whatever the key is to be null. And that should remove it. So in that case, we want to remove it if it's not a valid chest. We don't really, want to have it saved anymore. I suppose that you could not remove it, but it's up to you. And we're just going to print out a message saying removed chest at location, or chest location should be. Or we'll say removed, like, saved chest at location because it is not there. And it's optional if you want to remove it, but at the very least you should definitely print out a message so that the person will know. And now what we want to do, I just want to make sure that everything remains properly separated, but I suppose that we do actually need to have a couple of variables in here. So we need to have the int spawn index, and what that'll do is we're going to actually write a bunch of methods right now. So the first one we're going to do is public location get next spawn location, and we're just going to return spawn locations at index spawn index plus plus, or it has to be .get, I'm sorry. So what that'll do is we're going to go inside of spawn locations and we're going to get whatever it is at spawn index, which at first will be 0, and then the plus plus will add 1. So when the first player joins, we'll call get next spawn location, and at that point spawn index will be 0, so it'll give us the 0th element, the first spawn location. And then spawn index will become 1, and so on and so forth. And what'll happen is this will return, actually I guess we need to say if spawn locations dot size is less than spawn index. Yeah, so if the size is less than or equal to, yeah, if it's less than or equal to spawn index, or I guess it would make more sense to say if spawn index is greater than or equal to the size, then we want to return null instead of having it throw an exception. And we'll just say that if get next spawn location is null, then we don't put the player in, although I don't know if that'll be an issue for us the way that we implement this game, just in case. The other thing that we need to do is public boolean in use, so that'll return that public void set in use. And what we're going to do is we're going to say this dot in use equals true, because we're going to write another method called reset, and that'll be in charge of setting. So in use will be equal to false, and then spawn index, will be equal to 0. So what will happen is, since we are actually storing some data inside of the map, we will make sure that we reset it. So after the game is over, we'll call reset to the map, which will make it no longer in use, and it'll reset the spawn index so that it can be used again. But that's really all of the data that we need to use for now. We're going to eventually write the part that will populate all of the chests and everything. Oh wow, this is long. Okay, so we're not actually going to get to the spawn, to what was it, the arena today. But you can see how arena will fit in. Arena will be in charge of all of the players on the map, and it'll have things, sending messages to all the players. It'll have the state of the arena and all of that stuff. So this is all we're going to do in this episode. We set up the map class, which represents a map that users can play on. Eventually, we will add commands to set it up. We'll add a map manager that will load them all in, but this is in charge of loading all of the data for one map on a configuration file. So, once we get configuration manager set up, we'll eventually be able to load in data, and eventually we'll also be able to save it. One last thing, this was pretty silly of me, is that I forgot to do a check here under get KDR. What if deaths is equal to 0? Well, if deaths is 0, I assume that you just return kills. I'm not 100% sure how KDR is calculated, but I believe it's just the number of kills. But at the very least, that won't cause the arithmetic exception if deaths happens to be 0. So I don't know why I didn't catch that, but a couple people pointed it out to me, so thank you for pointing that out to me. So again, we worked on the map class, and that is all set up. Next time we can work on the arena class, which will, of course, reference the map class. So as always, subscribe if you want to see more, comment with what you want to learn, and any features that you want to see in this video, really. And if you like this video, click the like button. I'll see you guys soon with some more coding. Bye for now.